Now joining us, one of the most popular swing coaches in the world, Shauheen Nakhjavani, over 110,000 followers across all social media platforms. He now joins us here on Golf Talk Canada. Shauheen, what's going on, man?
Not much. Trying to soak in whatever nice weather we have because it hasn't been great this summer, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, it's been wild for sure. And we've had the chance to work together. We'll get to that a little later in the interview here. But for you, how did this all get started for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting situation. I started posting stuff on social media back before like algorithms and, popularity really existed. I think I was one of the first coaches on Instagram back in the day with like George Gankis, to be honest. And I just would share my thoughts randomly here and there. I was kind of working, like a pro shop job, like a lot of people like 10, 11 years ago. And then I guess people really started to like the information I was sharing. Obviously, I have a very like mathematical approach to what I do. It's not really like very feel based or flimsy, the information. It's very, very specific. And just started to gain a lot of following that way. And then tour players started to reach out and it kind of just like expanded from there. I've been very fortunate, let's put it that way.
Well, you know, everything happens for a reason, and you're doing a lot of great work here so far. So, who are some guys or players on tour who are you currently working with?
So on the PGA Tour, I'm just working with one, which is Kevin Chappell. Kevin is coming back from some time off due to an injury. So he's just starting to play up a fuller schedule again. So I'm looking forward to getting him kind of back on track. Probably the most popular name in Canada that I work with would be Stephen Ames on the Champions Tour. Stephen and I have been working together for almost 5 years now. I want to say it's about 4.5 years. So our relationship has been definitely growing over the past couple of years. And he won 3 times this year on the Champions Tour. So obviously we're doing something right, which is really good. And then the highest ranked player I work with currently would be Yannick Paul, who's on the DP World Tour, top 15 player on that tour right now. World-class ball striker. We just came back from the Scottish and British Opens, so that was really fun. And obviously a bunch of other guys on like the various mini tours and stuff.
Well, you mentioned Stephen Ames there. And for you, when you see one of your students go out and have the success that he has had at the age he is at on PGA Tour Champions, how satisfying is that for you to see all this hard work that he's doing, that you're helping him do, is paying off?
I mean, obviously very satisfying. I mean, it's always hard to talk about because it's one of those like old cliches, when he does poorly, you get too much blame. When he does well, you get too much credit. So I'd like to think, obviously, I'm helping him out quite a bit. We have done a lot of work on his swing, from a technical standpoint. If anyone's been on my social media, I'm sure they've seen, I'm pretty open when it comes to working with my tour players. I don't really like to hide stuff behind like a glass wall or something like that. I like people to really be able to see what we're doing just so that other people can learn online too. But we've done a lot of work and obviously it's paid off this year. For whatever reason, this is a year where everything's been clicking really nice. I do think he's had very successful seasons over the last couple, but I mean, you win 3 times in the first like 10, 12 events. Obviously, everyone's going to talk about it.
Yeah, certainly. So what exactly are you working with Stephen Ames?
So Stephen and I, it always tends to be the same theme with him for the last, basically as long as I've known him. Whenever he takes a lengthy period of time off, he tends to fall under the same theme of swinging basically a little too far from the inside. So what that essentially, he likes to draw the ball with his irons. He's always been a drawer of the ball. If anybody knows him historically, he tends to get too shallow. That would be like the technical way to talk about it. And, when he swings too far from the inside, he tends to draw the ball too much and he can miss it left under pressure. No good right-handed golfer likes missing it left under pressure because it's just not a very controllable shot. And so a lot of our work has basically been on making his body movements more efficient, essentially. I'm trying to simplify this a little bit, but making his body movements as efficient as possible so that he's not swinging so far from inside out. So we basically reduce the draw effect in his golf swing.
Okay, that's some awesome stuff there, and I love some of the videos you recently posted with Stephen, because just recently you were on a FaceTime coaching him, correct?
Yeah, so Stephen and I started in person. In an ideal world, obviously, we would always see each other in person. But as is the case nowadays with social media, you have the ability to teach people from very far away. Stephen and I obviously live in very, very different locations. So I don't have the ability to meet up with him as often as I would like. So probably about once every 3 to 4 weeks, we do like a pretty lengthy check-in on FaceTime just to make sure everything's in order. And during tournament season, we'll talk a little bit more regularly via text and stuff. And then every once in a while, I'll see him in person. But yeah, FaceTime sessions have been great. I mean, me and you have obviously done one, which we'll talk about. But I do believe nowadays it's really easy to learn online from any coach anywhere, because we have access to so many different amazing things like launch monitors, and obviously the power of Zoom and FaceTime and stuff. It makes it really easy to do.
Okay, so that's where I'll get to next. Did I read this correctly that you gave 5,000 lessons in 1 year?
I have given 5,000 lessons in 1 year, and I'm up to almost 11,000 online since I started about 5 years ago.
Oh.
Just online. That doesn't include any sort of in-person teaching, and I still teach quite a bit in person. So I'm very gratefully busy. Let's put it that way. But yes, my busiest year online, I was probably close to 5,000 lessons for sure.
That's wild. And you teach players of all skill levels, not just the people we see on television?
Yes, that's correct. Especially in Montreal, obviously, where I'm located, doesn't have the biggest golf audience, let's say. There's obviously historically not a lot of amazing players that have come out of the province of Quebec, which I would like to change that in the future, and I'm going to do my best to do so. But yeah, basically I teach players of all levels over here, ranging from your classic 20, 30 handicap guys that are struggling to break 100, which they typically will deal with a lot of the same stuff that we'll see over and over, all the way up to the tour players, which I obviously travel to and I'm very lucky to work with.
You mentioned things you see over and over and over again. So with all these lessons you're giving with amateurs, what's the most common error that you see amateurs make?
I'm going to unfortunately group you into this category.
Here we go. Yes.
Because when we did our FaceTime session, I saw very much the same thing. I would say the most common issue by far is just a wide open club face. It's just, we always have this old school analogy in golf instruction, which is club face is king. It's very much true. A lot of the things that we will do with our body, with the club, will be dependent on where the club face is at various points throughout the golf swing. And as was the case with you when we did our FaceTime session, more often than not, I'll see the club face be too open, and then the golfer develops just a whole bunch of bad habits around it, trying to find a way to get the ball going in the direction they want.
Okay, so let's take a deep dive, because we reached out to each other on social media. This would have been late June, call it that, and I posted a swing video. I was pretty proud of it, and you said, hey man, if you want some more yardage, you just let me know. And I said, well, ding 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 ding, I'm all in for all that. And it was as easy as we set up a FaceTime. You got me going. And you're the first instructor who has ever changed my grip. And I thought it would feel way more uncomfortable than it has. But basically what we've done is we've gripped have the club more in my fingers now for more of a stronger grip. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to play as much golf as I would like, but what I'm finding is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, so I showed up with my club face like a pancake, basically at the top and going through impact, and this would cause me to hit some pretty wild shots, whether it was right, whether it was left. But this left hand, certainly when I have played, there have been many flashes of brilliance, and then there's still many flashes of not so brilliant. So for me, where should I take this journey next?
So the typical chain reaction of events that we'll see, I'll actually lay it out. It's like a clear roadmap that we come across quite often, which is, it starts with the club face that's too open. In your case, when we dove into the root cause of it, it stemmed from the grip being too weak, which basically means the club was resting too much in the palm of your hand, not a lot of stability there. The rotational position of your hands was causing the club face to be too open. So then from there, obviously, it just becomes impossible to swing from the inside. If anybody's tried to do this with an open club face, it ain't going to go anywhere near where you're aiming. So obviously, it just doesn't happen very often. And so you were basically swinging over the top, which is a very common phrase that I'm sure a lot of people understand. And so in order for us to change that entire chain that was causing you to get over the top, we had to strengthen the grip. Strengthening the grip got the club face more close and allows you to be able to drop the club, let's call it in the slot, just for a simplified explanation, so that you can swing from the inside. And as we were seeing during the FaceTime session, the good shots were obviously drawing. They were really nice. They were compressed a lot more. When you get the club face in a stronger position, it allows you to basically get a little more shaft lean, which allows the ball to travel a little bit farther. The problem is you obviously have a lot of these compensations, which we like to call in the golf industry, meaning a lot of these subtle reactions your body and your hands and arms would do to try to square up the club face beforehand because it used to be wide open. Now, unfortunately, throughout this process, and I'm sure a lot of people who are going to be watching this can relate, when you do get the club face in a better position, it doesn't automatically mean that all of these negative things you used to do at impact just magically go away. You know, I wish it was as simple as like I wave a magic wand and it does, but that's just not the reality. And so in a case like yours, you know, you're finding that there's still a lot of like flippiness of the hands at the bottom and a lot of these reactions that are still causing the ball to travel offline when your timing isn't quite good. Mm-hmm. So the next phase of this would essentially be to allow your body to move better through the ball so that you don't have to rely on your hands so much. And that's probably the more common thing that we'll see as like the roadmap. You know, first you start with getting the club face better. That allows the club to move better, which allows your body to eventually move better as well.
And part of it too, and this might just be me selfishly saying this, but you know, sitting or whether you're on a driving range or a simulator, you're not exactly thinking where the ball's going. You're not picking a target. You're not playing with wind off your left. You've got not many thoughts. You're not playing with a lot of fear. So maybe this is part mental and part physical. And for me, to take a phrase from Tiger, not to compare me and Tiger at all, but basically more competitive reps. And that could help whether it's me or your other average 5 handicap player.
I think it's a combination of things, to be honest. You know, for starters, the driving range is obviously a wide open field. So a ball that travels offline probably looks a lot better on the driving range versus on the golf course where, you know, 30, 40 feet offline is quite significant. Let's say with a short club in your hands, I say significant, you know, loosely, but versus on the driving range where it might look like an amazing shot because obviously the field is so large that 30 feet offline doesn't look that bad. Another part of this has to do with, I agree with you, first of all, with the competitive reps in the sense that when you go to the golf course, your alignment is off, the wind is off, the lie of the golf ball is off. Like there are all of these external variables at play that are basically non-existent in the driving range. You know, obviously there might be a little bit of wind on the range, but you're hitting off a square mat oftentimes, which is pre-aiming you basically to a location. So your alignment never really becomes an issue. Right? The ball is always resting on the ground the exact same way. The lie is very consistent. And so if you are hitting the ball good at the range, it's not always indicative of how well you're going to hit it on the golf course, simply because the golf course has all of these added elements that make it more challenging. And that's where I believe those competitive reps become increasingly more important as you're getting more comfortable with any sort of swing change that someone's going to be doing.
Well, it's been quite a journey so far, and I'm hoping for more practice time, some more FaceTime perhaps with you as well as we keep learning, because like I said, when I hit the shots the way I want to, the ball flight is totally different. It makes a different sound. And for those who have seen my social media video, I posted one about a month ago or so, hitting a driver, and it traveled pretty far. So let's put it that way. So far, so good. It's a work in progress. But for someone watching, for someone listening this, who are absolutely loving what they're hearing from you, how do they get in touch with you? How do they start their journey and perhaps get a lesson?
So me, along with a lot of other coaches online, we are on a platform called Skillist. It's the platform that I have been on for the last 6 years. It's basically very easy to do. You go on the website, you'll see a lot of coaches there with their ratings, and you know, you can give reviews, which a lot of people have done. And you can basically see how people communicate. There are sample lessons on there. So if you like the way someone's speaking above someone else or just the type of information they're sharing, you can book a lesson with them there. That's the platform that I do my online coaching. And then I'm everywhere else like most people. You know, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, although not many people are using Facebook anymore these days. It's pretty simple. My username or my handle is the same everywhere. It's Shauheen Golf. Don't ask me where that's from. It's a long nickname that just has been carrying over for years. But basically SHKEEN Golf.
There you go. Well, Shauheen, really appreciate your time today. Congratulations on all your success so far, and looking forward to seeing what's next for not only you, but next with our progression together to hopefully get a little better. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, guys.